Afterburn by Crab Applard. Chapter 3. Ochako's room is dark and quiet around her, with only the ticking of the clock and the low rasp of her breathing stirring the silence. She lies in her bed and stares up at her ceiling, unseeing, mittened hands pawing restlessly at her covers, a mirror to her brain clawing through the memories of this morning's breakfast? Where she'd discovered Deku's secret and found him suddenly out of her reach, forever. She's not crying. She wishes she was. Maybe then all these awful feelings would leak out her eyes and leave her heart peaceful, her soul washed clean. She'd cried earlier, at least, cradled in the circle of Toru's arms, invisible fingers stroking her hair as she sobbed out the wrenching pain from emotions dialed up so high and so loud. She couldn't even tell what she was really feeling, just that it hurt. It hurt! The tears had helped a little. Toru had helped more with her murmured nonsense and her soft scent of lilies. But now that the immediate rush has passed, Ochako is left alone in the dark, feeling stagnant and heavy. Finding out Deku is an Omega was supposed to make things easier. So why? She throws an arm over her eyes, trying to block out the memories that haunt her like vengeful ghosts, the shadows within shadows that play out scenes she already knows by heart. Like the first time she'd met Deku. He'd been clumsy and absent-minded, mumbling to himself and tripping over his own feet. She'd caught him before he could hit the ground. She'd thought he was cute, in a bumbling, puppyish kind of way. But then when she'd been trapped under rubble and about to be crushed, when all she'd seen were the backs of her peers as they fled before her attacker, he'd been there. He'd run toward her. He'd saved her! With a single phenomenal blow that flattened the robot like a milk carton. Incredible! Amazing! Heroic! In a way that no one else there had the guts to even pretend at! In that moment, she'd truly seen him. So brave and so fierce. And he just needed time to grow into himself, to find his footing and discover the strength in his own limbs, the sharpness of his teeth. Because all puppies grow up. And Midoriya Izuku had the blood of a wolf. He just needed a little time to realize it. And she knew that once grown, he'd never need her to catch him again. Ochako sighs, scrubs a hand across her face, the mitten soft and familiar in the dark. It's not like I was wrong. He's still amazing. He's still cool. He's still... A total turnoff. This troublesome crush she's been trying to be rid of for months is suddenly dead in her arms. She should be able to lay it to rest, bury it deep, and move on, but instead she's left lingering over the cooling corpse of her fantasies. The sour taste of guilt heavy in the back of her throat. Because is this really all it takes for her to lose interest? Finding out someone's an Omega? The feelings she's been choking on, the confusion she's tripped over, the whirl of excitement and wanting and denial. Did any of it matter? Was any of it even real? No, it was totally real, she tells herself. I spent way too much time rubbing off to it for it not to have been real. So there had been something. It's just now that she knows what's actually between Deku's legs, she's not interested in the rest of the package. And that does not make her feel good about herself at all. You're probably just hung up on stereotypes, she tells herself desperately. Not all alphas are sexy badasses. Not all omegas are needy little blinks. There's lots of people who don't fit the norms. You just have to catch up with the idea. She pats nonsense rhythms into her covers as she turns that over in her mind. There's gotta be people into that sort of thing, right? There are people who are into middle-aged salarymen and subway groping. There's gotta be people into buff, tough omegas. So maybe... She slips off her mittens, uncaring about how they float away into the dark. She'll find the damn things in the morning, evening. Ugh, having night patrols makes things so confusing. What's important is finding her phone. She does some careful searching in the dark with only 4 fingers of each hand, though she's pretty sure she slips up and sends one of her shoes to join the mittens floating in the shadows. She finally finds what she's looking for by the plate of crackers on her table. Taps the screen to wake it up, immediately jams her eyes closed as a brilliant orange rectangle comes to life and tries to sear its way into her brain via her retinas. Ow, 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 ow! she mutters, leaking tears as she stumbles back to bed. She keeps a firm four-fingered grip on her phone. This is one thing she doesn't want floating off into the night. Back under the covers, she curls around her favorite pillow and, squinting against the glare of the phone, starts her search online. Top Omega porn just gets her the most popular vids, so she tries variations. Butch Omega, Semi-Omega, Melee Omega, though she'd probably have better results for that one by texting Kirishima to share his FAP folder. She picks her first vid because the title makes her giggle. In this alphabet, Omega comes before Alpha. That's the only thrill she gets from it. The Omega male is good-looking, sure, with his broad shoulders and his spiraling horns, his barbed tail and his sharp white fangs, but she tries another. And another. She tries all kinds, with Omega stopping mixed groups, Omega Master number 7, with bondage, Alpha's bound to please, and she even tries Omega on Omega stuff, Omega and Omicron. In the end, all she gets from it is 2 hours of lost sleep and a ruined download limit. She clicks on reverse knotting as a last-ditch effort and watches in sudden despair as an Omega stuffs an enormous dildo into a female Alpha. The camera zooms in on the Alpha's pussy, and though she's usually into guys, Ochako finds herself getting pleasantly tingly at the sight of it, pink and wet, and how the Alpha's claspers grip tight around the toy and lock it in place. But then the focus shifts up to the Alpha's face, and she's crying, and all Ochako can think is, Deku would totally cry during sex. Mood ruined. She tosses her phone to the floor and burrows deep into her bed covers, wrapping them tight around herself since her lack of sleep mittens means she'll inevitably send the blankets floating off if she doesn't weigh them down herself. She'd regret having let her mittens drift away, except that she's too busy wondering why, if love is supposed to let you see past the surface. She can't get over this! At 8 p.m., her phone's alarm goes off. She can't shut it up because she's glued to the ceiling and trapped in a blanket burrito. She's also got a headache and is faintly nauseous from floating around under power of her quirk all night, none of which is improving her mood. Her room is pitch dark, so she can't tell where she is. Still over her bed? Off by the door? Over her desk? She groans and lies to herself that never will she ever forego her sleep mittens again. Honest. Pinky promise this time, okay? Getting down from the ceiling sucks. She manages it with a minimum of damage, cushioning her fall with the wadded up blankets. She knocks over her chair and bangs her foot, but it's nothing serious, so she counts this as an embarrassing learning experience and crawls over to her phone to finally shut it up. A few minutes later, she's shuffling down the stairs toward the common room. She wants breakfast and hot tea and a shower before patrol. What she gets is Eraserhead slumped in one of the dorm's kitchen chairs, arms crossed and expressions sour. Yao Momo and Jiro are seated with him, still in pajamas and looking groggy and uncomfortable, and Tokoyami is leaning against the fridge trying to seem cool, collected, and utterly failing thanks to his ruffled feathers and backward t-shirt.
Take a seat anywhere,
Eraserhead tells her.
I've got some things to discuss with everyone before you go back out.
She stifles a groan. It's not just getting down from the ceiling. Everything about today is going to suck. She can feel it. This is immediately confirmed when, still half asleep and mostly on autopilot, she drops into one of the armchairs and finds herself facing the couch where Deku, Ida, and Todoroki sit side by side. Todoroki looks even less awake than she is, wrapped in a blanket and eyes squinched shut, his hair a swirl of red and white and his clothing rumpled from napping all day on the couch. For once, Ida looks just as rumpled. Were they napping together, maybe? That's cute, especially the way Todoroki lists to the side, threatening to fall face first into Ida's lap, while Ida looks simultaneously tantalized and horrified. The problem is Deku. Deku, curled up on Ida's other side, legs folded underneath himself on the couch, looking small and young in his baggy clothing, and after he glances at Ochako, extremely ashamed. The nausea comes back, a sticky tangle in her guts and her throat. Deku had looked so happy this morning. He deserves to still be happy, deserves to be congratulated for hooking two of the hottest catches in the class, deserves to be cuddled and teased. But instead he's barely holding back tears because she's making a huge deal about the death of feelings she hadn't even wanted. Never mind her love life. Right now is the time to look to her friendships. Deku, I'm sorry for lying to you, he blurts before she can get anything more out. I really am. It's just that I was so used to everyone in middle school knowing about it, and then when I got on blockers, I didn't even think about how I presented anymore because it didn't matter, and also recovery girl says I probably have been stunted that way because of long-term side effects, so I guess I just kind of forgot. Recovery girl said what? Ida squawks. Deku flinches and curls in on himself tighter. I wasn't trying to hide it. She doesn't know for sure. I'm seeing a specialist on Monday. Ochako feels her heart sink. Once again, it turns out Deku's been doing things that hurt him. Once again, he's going to be in the clinic day after day. Not for the first time, she thinks he needs looking after. But for the first time, she actually considers that thought. Deku needing looking after. Does he really? He scrubs a hand through his curls, nervous fidgeting as he mumbles apologies to Ida, and her eyes catch on his crooked fingers, the wicked scars that carve silver trails into his skin. And now she's not just nauseous, she honestly feels like she might puke. How did she miss the implications of that? How? It's on the tip of her tongue to demand details of his meeting with Recovery Girl. What else did she say? What's wrong this time? Ida stops any attempt. I know you weren't trying to hide anything. I'm upset because you're suffering, Midoriya, not because you didn't disclose private information immediately. His voice is pitched lower than usual, and the horizontal slice of his hand to finalize his words is smaller, more subtle. It's gentle. Ida is being gentle with Deku. And it works! Deku glances up at Ida's face, then slowly uncurls to sit up straighter when he sees nothing but Ida's earnest frown of concern. Oh! He says, like he isn't sure what to do with the idea someone actually cares. He searches Ida's face for a bit, bites his lip, slowly turns his head to peek at her. Those eyes... Those big green eyes full of uncertainty, not even daring to hope. She's seen their like before, on lost children and abandoned puppies and kittens in the rain. Time to step up, Ochako, she tells herself. You're a hero. Act like it. I understand why you didn't tell me, Deku. She forces a smile and finds it's easier than she thought. She still likes him, she realizes. She still cares, still wants to see him happy. She just doesn't want more. It was a shock and I was upset, but it's okay. Ida's right. That sort of thing is private, so don't feel bad, okay? And now her smile turns rueful. Just give me some time, she says. Time to get over what she didn't know and what she no longer feels. Time to grapple with her doubts about herself. He smiles, that tentative wobbly curve of his mouth, as if he's scared his joy will chase you away. Thanks, Ochako. You're a really good friend. He has to stifle a sad chuckle at that. A good friend. He doesn't even realize. She never wanted more. That's probably for the better, though it makes her feel pretty lousy about her come-hither appeal. She blinks as a sudden realization hits her. Of course he never noticed. He's an Omega. He's not used to someone wanting him to pursue them. He's the one who's supposed to be pursued. And Recovery Girl said he was stunted by his blockers on top of that? A cascade of memories hit her, of Deku not picking up on flirting, of Deku reacting with confusion and awkwardness to Minetta's lurid comments, of Deku's focus so easily shifting away from that strange naked girl in the license exam. And then there's all his odd little social foibles, weird in an alpha and unusual for a beta, but perfectly reasonable for an omega. His sensitivity to Bakugo's disapproval and difficulty facing his aggression. His shunting off the job of class president to Ida at the first opportunity. His easy idolization of everyone around him. Even his focus on heroics as saving people, as helping them, instead of as beating bad guys or winning a fight. All of it is explained by his omega nature. Her unfocused gaze snags on movement. Todoroki's eyes have opened and he meets her gaze, lifts his eyebrows in a knowing look. So obvious now, she mouths at him. He laughs silently and nods a little. The sharp rapping from the kitchen cuts through their bonding moment. Eraserhead hauls himself to his feet and announces,
"You're all here, so pay attention and we can get this over with quick."
The kitchen chairs are all taken now, her classmates having collected in knots about the kitchen. She's puzzled over why no one's come over to the armchairs, then realizes that they're keeping a discreet distance from her, Deku, and his packmates. Giving them space, giving them privacy. Her heart clenches and she can feel her mouth quiver, and when Tsuyu notices her looking and gives Ochako an encouraging thumbs up, it's all Ochako can do now to start crying. She has really good friends. Maybe today won't suck after all. Then Eraserhead says,
"This is an update on the school policies about sexual conduct."
And Ochako feels the awful dread return.
"First, a reminder that anyone, boy or girl, involved in a pregnancy will be transferred to the Gen Ed studies for a year. You could reapply to the heroics class after the suspension and pick up where you left off. Preventative measures are encouraged, and there's always free condoms available at Recovery Girl's office. Use them. Second, it has been brought to our attention that living in dorms will result in some new dynamics that need to be addressed. As such, the following rules are now in effect. Keep it in your rooms. Anyone who has sex in a public area, including the bathrooms, will face a 3-day suspension and be forced to write apology letters to all fellow dorm residents. Anything you get dirty, you clean. Anything you break, you replace. Speaking of rooms, there's no moving in with each other. You sleep in your own spaces. Anyone stuck together is expected to get unstuck in time for curfew. Get used to the discomfort. As a hero, you're on call at all hours, and that means interruptions at awkward times. And lastly, you're all getting a mandatory health class to refresh your sex education."
A chorus of protests immediately rises. We're 16! I'm 17! We've already had 4 by now! The internet. So embarrassing! One idiot doesn't know. That's a good idea, says Bakugo, voice easily overriding everyone else's, and instantly there's silence. He glares at the floor with the kind of murderous rage he usually reserves for things like manga villains, real villains, and Deku. But despite the snarl curling his lips, his words are clear and sharp. Too many people skip that crap because they think a bit of porn is all they need to figure things out, and then they wind up fucked over by their own dicks. Or cunts, whatever. He swats away the details. Not important. The thing is, we can't afford to be ignorant morons about this. Everyone's starting to get handsy. We're beginning to get fans, and some of them are going to want something more personal than an autograph. A refresher is a good idea. Ochako boggles at him. Her eyes are so wide, they feel like they're going to pop right out of her face, and her jaw is hanging slack. She must look like a complete idiot. At least she's not alone. Almost everyone in class is her mirror image, googly-eyed and gate-mouthed like a school of hungry carp. The stunned silence is broken by a soft choking noise, and then Kirishima is flinging himself at Bakugo and sobbing, "Bro! You're the manliest of alphas for looking after everyone's health like this! Get off me, fucking shitty air! I'm not looking out for anyone, I just don't want to get the dick rot!" You say that, but you could have just looked stuff up online, says Kirishima, flashing his wide, serrated smile. He punches Bakugo's shoulder and leans into his face, stage whispering, "Don't be shy! It's sweet that you care!" Bakugo's face contorts with rage, blonde hair positively bristling and lips pulling back to display impressive alpha canines, shoulders bunching and arms flexing in a deliciously dangerous-looking display of his strength. His hands spark menacingly, and he looks like he's about to make a serious effort at blowing Kirishima's face right off when Eraserhead claps his hands and jerks everyone's attention back to him.
Genital rot and all other such embarrassments have also been taken into account. You'll have the option for getting screened for STIs during health checkups from now on. Take advantage of it. We're also bringing in a secondary nurse who specializes in sexual health and ABO dynamics. They're scheduled to start on Monday, so if you need any help there, take it. If the thing is too embarrassing to consult a specialist, I seriously suggest you consider if it's more embarrassing than finding your face on the cover of tabloids after you give a groupie herpes and they sell the story for a quick buck.
Ochako eyes Eraserhead suspiciously. That is a really specific example. Deku seems to think so too. His eyes narrow and he starts mumbling, his battered hand stealing up to play with his pouty lower lip. She can just make out a few words here and there, things like, student wouldn't be worth, and likely no Eraserhead. And he squeaks, flinching away from the poke in his side Ida gives him. We should extend the courtesy of respecting sexual privacy to everyone. Ida chides, his voice growing stern. A deep flush crawls over Deku's cheeks to lie smoldering across the bridge of his nose. Oh, right, he says, gaze dropping and shame weighing his shoulders down in a pathetic hunch. I just, force of habit? I know, says Ida. I'm simply reminding you that now is not an appropriate time. Deku's head jerks up at the reply and he blinks a few times. Looks so confused, his eyebrows dipping down and a frown pulling in his mouth, like he isn't sure what he just heard. Like he doesn't know how to deal with it. Once again, he stares searchingly into Ida's face, like he's trying to find something hidden behind the mild words. Ida smiles at him encouragingly. Your analytical skills are a gift. Please don't waste them on gossip. Besides, says Todoroki, leaning across Ida to give Deku a cat's slow, sleepy blink. You know it was Present Mike. Deku bursts into laughter, all the tension running out of his frame as Ida sputters over Todoroki, spreading unfounded rumors, and Todoroki nods in solemn agreement to Ida's outraged scolding. Ochako watches them. It's strange. She'd never have thought to tell Deku to stop, it's just who he is. Mumbly and a little creepy and a little invasive. The idea that you could, that maybe you should, tell him to stop when he went too far, that you could do it without telling him he's scaring the children, without making him crumble up like wet cardboard. It's different. Deku's reaction is different too. He's not sheepish and pulling back into himself. He's bright and laughing and leaning into Ida's side. Affectionate. Confident. The thought hits her like one of All Might's punches. They're going to change him. And for a moment she feels absolutely outraged because how dare they? How dare they change Deku, who is sweet and warm and giving and absolutely perfect? And then Deku runs his hand through his curls in a nervous gesture. Fingers left crooked and weakened by his own power. Scars moon pale against his freckle-starred skin. If he was perfect, would he have hurt himself like that? If he stays the way he is, will that happen again? She doesn't know. But maybe Deku does need to change after all. And I've got to change too, she tells herself. I've known for months that I'm no good with these feelings confusing everything for me. So it's time to stop running away. From now on, I'm going to fight until I figure this out. Yeah! Time to get fired up! Ochako! Ochako! Your face!